In the heartland of Nebraska, farmer Henry Mitchell stumbled upon an unexpected sighting on his land, a deep hole that seemed to lead into the unknown depths below. Fueled by curiosity, he decided to go down into the darkness, but what he encountered left him in disbelief. Beneath his own farm, Henry found himself face-to-face with a tribe that should not exist in the modern world. With their makeshift long ladder, Farmer Henry and his young field worker Joshua started making their way down the dark, deep hole. They had no idea what they were set to encounter there, but they were ready to find out. But their discovery would be beyond anything the two men could have imagined. Henry and Joshua encounter people down in the hole. But not just any human being. These were clearly humans of another time. But how is it possible that they were now face-to-face with these individuals? They had so many questions that they were desperate to get answers. But one thing they knew for sure: the world needed to know about this. They called the police for assistance. Henry expected them to be eager to come and assist them, but things would play out a little differently from what he expected, as he had actually made a big mistake here. But what exactly did Henry find in the hole? How was the hole even created? And what big mistake had Henry made? Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Farmer Henry could not help but laugh when he got a call from one of his field workers, Joshua, that morning. The boy told him that there was a giant hole in his land, going very deep into the ground by the looks of things. The first thing that Kylan did was check if it was April 1st or something, but the young man was very serious. After some back and forth, Henry decided to entertain his crazy claim and went out to go and meet him on the field. But if the boy was lying to him about this or trying to pull a prank on him, he could pick up his paycheck and never need to come back. Henry was not very satisfied with the boy anyway, and this could push him over the edge. Henry was sure that there was no way that the boy was telling the truth, but he could not have been more wrong in his assessment. There was a small road leading him through the fields of crown that were nearly ready to be harvested. Henry was actually speeding on this road, and he could stop just in time when the field worker jumped in front of his car. Henry was about to get very angry with the boy. Not only had he called him out here for most likely a stupid joke, but now he was also jumping in front of his car. This boy was almost begging to be fired. But then Henry got a view of what was behind the boy, or maybe better, what was not behind the boy. Where there was supposed to be a road, there was now a clear absence of sandy tire tracks. There was actually a hole in the ground. The field worker had been telling the truth, but what Henry did not know yet was that he was only seeing a very small part of the hole. Only when he got out of his car and walked closer to the hole did he see the full scope of the discovery. His jaw nearly dropped to the floor. He had never seen anything like this before, and he could not imagine how this had gotten here. The field worker had thought of some possibilities while he was waiting for his boss. It could be a giant sinkhole, a meteor crash, or the result of a small earthquake. But none of these options really made sense. Looking down in the hole, they could see mostly empty space. It was clearly no direct cylinder leading down. It was like there was maybe a giant cavern below them that was far wider than the hole itself. Henry's fields were mostly hovering over an empty space in the ground. How could he not have known about that? These fields had been in his family for generations, and never had he heard or read anything about this. But between all the confusion and surprise, there was also a lot of room for curiosity. And Henry was also left with a decision to make. What the hell was he going to do next, and with who was he going to do it? He could call the police or the local government and then investigate this situation. With a bit of luck, they could help him get his field back in order. He could also call his insurance directly for that, and these were all sensible decisions. But Henry was not about to make a sensible decision, as he had already gotten too curious. And so had his field worker Joshua. They talked about it for a little bit, and both of them wanted to get down there and see for themselves what had been hidden under their feet for so many years. They were not even thinking about how the hole had gotten there in the first place, a detail that would turn out to be very important to understand what had been happening here. They went back to the farm to pick up some supplies. They knew they needed to be quick because a hole of this size would not stay hidden for long. If anybody flew even a little bit close to the field, they would most likely be able to notice it, and then that news would quickly spread. Joshua knew there was no way to stop the social media. Back at the farmhouse, the duo laid out a large canvas sheet on the living room floor. With a pen and pad, Henry began listing the items they'd need: ropes, lights, safety gear, everything essential for a safe exploration. With their equipment packed, they stood at the farmhouse entrance as the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue across the field. Together they set out, their boots crunching on the gravel path, heading toward the gaping hole and the unknown waiting below. With ropes anchored to a large boulder, they began their descent. Further down, Joshua's flashlight caught something unusual on the cavern wall, intricate patterns etched into the stone. abstract yet purposeful. They sparked questions. Were these natural formations or traces of ancient hands? The last glow of daylight disappeared, and the cavern enveloped them entirely. Every step, every drop of water echoed through the vast space, intensifying the sense of isolation. As they progressed, the acoustics grew stranger. Sounds bounced unpredictably, making it feel as though others walked beside them. Eventually, the ground leveled out beneath their feet. When Joshua focused his flashlight, he recognized outlines that resembled buildings. They moved forward cautiously, curiosity guiding their steps. The ground was strewn with artifacts, a shard of pottery, primitive tools, objects clearly crafted by human hands. The cavern was not just a natural formation, it held a buried history. Venturing farther, they found a clearing encircled by life-sized statues. Each figure was carved with meticulous detail, frozen in various everyday poses. As they rested among these statues and relics, a memory surfaced from Henry's childhood, his grandfather's tales of a tribe that vanished without a trace. Looking around, Henry wondered aloud if this place could be connected to that legend. Joshua nodded, sensing the weight of the discovery. The stillness of the cavern was abruptly broken by a distant rumble. The ground vibrated beneath their feet, sending a wave of alarm through both men. Henry, startled, wondered if it was an earthquake. Without hesitation, they secured their harnesses and began a hurried ascent. Every foothold felt like a race against time as the tremors echoed below. The mysterious world faded into darkness behind them, replaced by the urgency of escape. Outside, they were met with blinding sunlight and a crowd of anxious faces. A neighbor immediately questioned what had happened, while reporters surged forward, cameras flashing and voices overlapping. Overwhelmed, Henry and Joshua struggled to process the sudden attention. Still shaken, Henry addressed the crowd, saying only that they had found structures and remnants underground. He deliberately avoided details, exchanging a silent understanding with Joshua. The discovery felt too sacred to share openly. By evening, word had spread, and the field was crowded with cars and curious visitors. As darkness deepened, the distant wail of sirens grew louder. Police cars arrived, blue lights cutting through the dusk. Officers stepped out with stern expressions, asking the crowd to remain calm as they assessed the scene. Police soon cordoned off the area with bright yellow tape, instructing everyone to step back. By morning, the farm was filled with vans bearing geological and archaeological logos. Experts in protective gear began taking measurements and collecting samples. News crews soon transformed the farm into a media hub. Satellite vans, drones, and reporters broadcasting live updates surrounded the area. Archaeologists set up a bustling base camp near the hole, carefully examining fragments and discussing their findings. Their leader, Dr. Leanna Keaton, moved through the site with growing excitement, whispering that they were on the brink of a monumental discovery. Under the spotlight, Henry became a local sensation. Sharing his experience in interviews, he unexpectedly rose to fame. Invitations poured in from schools, events, and media outlets, an extraordinary turn for a modest farmer. Meanwhile, Joshua's worries deepened. Watching Henry gain attention only heightened his fear of repercussions. He confided that if his employer saw the news, he could lose his job. The discovery that thrilled the public filled him with dread. National attention soon followed. Tourists, researchers, and curious travelers flooded the small town. When geologists finished their assessments, their findings were announced on a makeshift stage. The cavern, they explained, had formed naturally a sinkhole carved out by erosion and underground water currents. The town listened closely. Many relieved the cause wasn't man-made or ominous. Among the crowds, an elderly man appeared, his weathered face stirring faint recognition among longtime residents. Rumors spread that he had deep ties to the land long before Henry owned it. Avoiding the noise, the old man went straight to the farmhouse. In the dim living room, over a pot of simmering tea, he shared stories of his youth, old secrets, and his connection to Henry's grandfather. He spoke of hidden truths, forgotten promises, and a pact made decades earlier. Slowly, the truth emerged. The statues were not ancient relics but art pieces created for a museum exhibition that never opened. Due to controversy, they were buried, and Henry's grandfather unknowingly became part of the cover-up. The town's greatest mystery was, in fact, a forgotten art project. The revelation stunned Henry at first, then struck him as absurdly hilarious. Their dramatic adventure had uncovered an abandoned museum collection. He laughed until tears blurred his vision. "Of all the secrets," he said, "this one's going in the history books, sort of." News spread quickly. Some residents who had believed theories of lost tribes and ancient rituals felt disappointed. Recognizing the sinkhole's risks, authorities and geologists drafted plans to stabilize the land. Drainage improvements and reinforcement strategies were discussed. Though the excitement was fading, the commitment to safety remained strong. Seeing ongoing public interest, Henry had an idea. Turn the sinkhole into a tourist destination. With local support, he built pathways, viewing platforms, and even a small cafe. Signs for the Great Sinkhole went up, inviting visitors to witness the geological marvel that once terrified the town. Over time, the story became part of the town's folklore. Elders entertained children with embellished tales of the Sinkhole Saga. As years passed, the legend evolved, weaving itself into the community's collective identity. Life eventually settled back into routine, but something fundamental had shifted. Pride, humor, and a stronger connection to the land remained. The sinkhole, first a shock, then a revelation, taught the town a valuable lesson: to welcome the unexpected and find joy in the surprises hidden beneath everyday life.